Mindfulness can be a very helpful thing for encountering difficulties in life. And one of the most difficult things can be things like a diagnosis of cancer. Let's learn a little bit about how mindfulness can help with those who are experiencing cancer, maybe for the first time or perhaps a returning cancer. Hello and welcome to Mindfulness Voyage. My name is Ted Meissner. Welcome back if you've been here before, and if you're new to this group, thank you so much for being part of it. If you would consider subscribing or commenting on the podcast, that will help share this with others if you're getting something out of it. And today's topic can be a bit difficult one. Many of you know in 2007 I had cancer. I am the first member of my family to survive this particular kind of cancer. It runs in my family very strongly. And that experience of already at that point, it was in 2007, having had a meditation practice of many years, made it a very different kind of experience for me than it was for others who didn't have the benefit of mindfulness, of seeing things, being with difficulties in a certain way. That can make a very big difference in any encounter with, difficult circumstances, but particularly something as heavyweight as cancer. So let's talk with our guest today and learn a little bit more about this.
Everyone, our guest today is Trish Bartley. Trish, thank you so much for being here. I've been looking forward to this for a while now.
Oh, me too. Thank you for inviting me.
So let's kick off by having you tell us a bit about your interest in this intersection of mindfulness and someone who has a cancer diagnosis. What led you to be interested in this?
Well, I was ever so lucky. I was invited to an early retreat by John Teasdale and Mark Williams, and Ferris Urbanowski, who some people may know, who was a teacher who taught with Jon Kabat-Zinn way back. So this was 99, I think it was. So a long time ago. And at the time I was having treatment for cancer, so I had no hair. So we were on this fairly wild West Wales island. And it was an amazing experience that I think none of us will ever forget, really. And Ferris taught her this sort of ragbag, I don't know quite what you call a ragbag collection of people. And I was one of the most ragbag, I think. Well, no, I wasn't. But you know, there was the kind of bona fide researchers and people who'd been involved in the MBCT trial. And then there were kind of extra bods because Mark was very keen to get some, to kind of broaden the field in terms of teachers. And I'd been using mindfulness in different ways and meditation in social care settings. So I was included. And at the end of the retreat, I was very keen to continue, had a conversation with Mark. And I remember him looking at my bald head. It was sunny, fortunately, and bald head because I was having chemotherapy, and saying, well, I'd love to teach this, but I'm not sure who I'd teach. Who do you think I could teach? And Mark just quietly looked at my head. And I said, well, I suppose I could teach people with cancer. And he said, I suppose you could. And the rest is history because he opened doors for me. And I then worked very closely with John Teasdale in terms of actually adapting the program and producing an MBCT for cancer program, which was eventually published in 2012. So we took our time. Yeah.
I wonder if you'd say a little bit about, because you've written books about this as well, and I'm wondering if you could just say a little bit about the program itself and some of your writings about this.
Right. Well, there are two books. The first book that came out is the kind of teacher's handbook. And it's an 8-week course. It's very much modeled on MBSR. It's very much modeled on MBCT, which, as you well know, is based on MBSR. So it's got a good lineage, as all our mindfulness-based programs have or should have. And I guess, the best way of describing it to you is really looking at the kind of aspects that are different, perhaps MBCT for cancer. What we've kind of drawn out, because I work very closely with a colleague called Christina Shannon, and she and I have kind of continued to develop the program, I guess. So one of the big focuses of the program, which won't surprise you, but might surprise some people in terms of cancer, is the body. And you'd think how bizarre, because, the body is, those of us who've had cancer, the body is kind of what's gone wrong, what's let us down. But actually the body, as you well know, Ted, is the place that we come back to. And actually reconnecting with the body, and finding, as Jon says, that there's more right than wrong in the body, is actually very empowering in a way. It's very important. I think the other area that we focus a lot on is group. So people who've had a diagnosis of cancer come together in a group, are tremendously drawn to one another. There's this sense that I think people who've experienced something similar, have a strong bond, a strong sense of kind of common humanity. We also focus a lot on brief practices. So we're talking very brief. We're talking less than a minute. We're talking a few seconds, or even just a landing, just there it is, and then moving off again. So I don't know how many there are 10 or so very brief practices. And there's one more, which I can't remember. That's crazy, isn't it? I've always got, I know what it is. There's 4 movements. So I've identified with help with another colleague in Ireland called Ursula Bates. She and I did a lot of work together, kind of drawing out a formulation for MBCT for cancer. And we came up really with 4 movements that we call. Jon Teasdale helped with the notion of movements, and that you'll recognize them. I'm sure anybody who's on this call who's done some mindfulness will recognize them. So the first one is intention. To set our intention that's based on our values and what matters. The second one is very much coming back. So coming back, the mind wanders, we come back to the feet, we come back to the body, we come back to this moment. The third one is turning towards, which is kind of, rather than pushing things away, we actually learn to very gently and incrementally turn towards what we don't want, or what's unpleasant, or maybe what's pleasant, what's really beautiful. And the last one is kindness. So intention, coming back, turning towards, and kindness are the 4 movements that really underpin the whole program. Yeah. That's a long answer. Sorry, Ted.
No, it's a perfect answer, because I was thinking how important it is to have, one of the things you mentioned is this group. And in particular, when undergoing cancer treatments and diagnosis and all of the things that come with that, how important it is to know that you're not alone.
Sure.
It can feel very isolating, because it is a deep, personal, transformative, difficult experience that you don't have to go through on your own. And this has always been a part of these programs from the very beginning. And it's one of the pushbacks I have sometimes when I hear criticisms of mindfulness as, this should be done in a social setting. Like, it is. It always has been. Take a class and learn about that before you start criticizing it, because it's there. We agree, because it is so helpful with that.
Sure.
So I also noticed that you have a new International Mindfulness in Cancer project. And I really wanted to unpack that a bit. Could you tell us a little bit about your partners in that and what it is?
Okay, thank you. This is a lovely opportunity to tell people a bit more about it, or people who've not heard. So let's start with my partner. So I've worked for a long time with somebody called Rob Vinken. He is a Dutchman in the Netherlands who's another mindfulness trainer. He runs an organization there. He and I have worked together for ages, and he's quite visionary, really. And he kind of was saying, look, we must go online long before the pandemic. He kind of recognized that 8-week courses in the form that they were not really reaching enough people easily enough. So he's been talking about it for ages, and I said, oh, okay, thinking, well, I like Rob. I'm happy to go along with it. And so we did a whole stack of recording, and we basically recorded the, not verbatim, but we recorded the kind of elements of the second book that I've written around mindfulness and cancer, which is specifically for people with cancer, for them to work through in their own time. So we've recorded videos, I don't know, 40 hours, is it? I mean, many, many, many hours of kind of short 4-minute videos, which basically takes you through the whole program, bit by bit in your own time. And it's on a very nice platform, which then translates onto a mobile phone, onto a smartphone. So it can be used via an app. So both of us really had a big heart's wish, heart desire to get this out into the world, because I've got quite a strong connection with South Africa and Africa in general. And I'm very aware that, that psycho-oncology, I don't know what your experience was, Ted, maybe it was much better than mine, but on the whole, the psychological support for people with cancer is patchy at best, and actually non-existent in many parts, even in places like America and the UK and the Netherlands. There's many places where you'll get almost no psychological support. It'll be very, happen chance really. Some places where it's great, which is really important. So we felt that this might be something that we could offer. And there are two parts to it. One part is for people with cancer, and the other part is for people who want mindfulness to inform their work, that they're already involved with working in cancer, sort of doctors, physiotherapists, radiologists. I mean, the whole kind of gamut of health and social care professionals, health professionals. So we have these two strands, if you like, that the materials for people with cancer, and then a training program, a facilitator training program for the professionals. And this is backed up by all the materials. The third partner in the project is an African. She's Didi Mahashoa, and she's a South African mindfulness teacher, which is very precious to us because she hosts all the webinars. So if we have somebody clearly African, clearly representing the south of the world, and really holding it in a kind of African way, which is lovely, really lovely. So it's very new. It's only just starting, but yeah, love for people to get involved and to be interested and see what it's got to offer them.
And I've taken a look at the website for this, which is linked on the episode page. For those who are watching this now, we do have links to that available.
Right.
And what I particularly like about this is that you've taken great strides towards accessibility. There are so many free resources for people with cancer to get that access and have that right away. The programs themselves are comparatively to others inexpensive, I think. And you're also making sure that scholarships are available for these offerings. And I'm wondering if you might just say a little bit about, with all of this clear intention around accessibility, why it's so important to have this accessible for people who are dealing with cancer themselves, or caregivers, or just within this field.
Well, in some ways, the answer is so obvious that it's hard not to justify. It's like, those of us who live in the West or the north of the world, we're so fortunate with our teachers, with the resources we have, with the internet we have, with the smartphones and the laptops and all the rest of what we have, with the medicine, with the health service that some of us have. It's not as good as we'd like it to be, but it's an awful lot better than an awful lot of places in the world. So accessibility feels like it's tremendously important. And the scholarships are quite particular, in fact. So the scholarships are very much based on dignity. So our perspective is, pay what you think it's worth. Pay what you can afford, but don't just pay something reasonable. Pay something. And if you can't pay something, then perhaps find a way in which you can pay it back in your own country. You can, you can offer this for free to your neighbours, or, that there's some kind of reciprocity there. And actually that's showing through. I mean, who knows, Ted, whether this is viable, because it's we haven't got any background funding. Perhaps we might find some at some point, but we haven't at the moment. So it's very much on an honesty basis. And I like that. I think that's a good way for us to be. And I think we'll learn a huge amount from people in other parts of the country, other parts of the world. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I particularly like about the way you characterize this scholarship program is that other approaches historically have been around really ways that that make people feel like they have extra hurdles on top of the financial ones to do. And it really can be debilitating to one's sense of self. And this is different than that. This is about true accessibility. So I really appreciate that particular approach to that. And you also have an affiliate program too, I noticed. I'm wondering if you could say just a little bit about that too.
Yes. This is something I know less about than Rob, but this is an idea that perhaps some training organizations, some mindfulness training organizations might be interested in the program, or perhaps medical schools. I mean, that's one of the ideas that we had, sort of medical training establishments or possibly universities. You know, they might actually be interested in getting an affiliate link that they would then pass on to others. And basically, anybody who then signs up for the full training program, which is $300, anybody who from one of their links who signs up, they will get $100 back from that. So they would get 33 1/3% of anybody that they kind of link into the program and who pays the full amount. Obviously, if they get a free scholarship, then no, they won't benefit from that. So it's really the whole point of the affiliate program is for us to network wider, because obviously the three of us have got, you know, we've got quite good networks, but they're limited in different areas. And so that the wider that we can make our, you know, spread our net, the more chance we have of this benefiting others. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And one of the things for those who are thinking, oh, $300 is a lot, I want to put some context around this.
Yes.
Is that just taking an 8-week course is typically more than $300.
Is it?
And teacher training programs to be able to deliver it. I've seen marketing materials from groups that are proud that it's kept to only $10,000. To be able to learn how to train at something. So seeing $300, please keep that in context.
Yes, absolutely.
That's wonderful because of that. That is an accessibility aspect to this.
I want to mention that we don't claim that this is comparable to a full teacher training that I don't know, an organization, a training organization might offer, because you know, it's based on people working through the materials themselves and then coming together in webinars once a month with me and with others, and really kind of learning together. There will be other elements as well, but it's not the same. We're not calling it a teacher training. We're calling it facilitator training. And I'm seeing it a bit like mindfulness informed. So, you know, a nurse, a clinical nurse specialist perhaps, might be involved in the training and actually might learn how to perhaps share just a small kind of little bite-sized mindfulness with patients, perhaps while they're going through treatment. And I think that could be really very, very valuable. But yes, you're right, $300. I mean, in some parts of the world, $300 is completely out the question. So that's why it's so important that it can be free. Yeah.
So Trish, one last question. Wondering if you would like to share with the viewers if they are encountering cancer.
Yeah.
In particular, if this is a new thing or recurring thing, however that happens to be.
Sure.
What are some words that you might offer to them?
Well, I'd like to offer a practice, if that's all right, Ted.
Please.
I mean, I think that might be the most helpful thing. That we offer a first aid practice. And I think many people find this to be really tremendously valuable. Very, very simple. You can do it anywhere. You can do it in the waiting room. You can do it while you're having chemo. You can do it while you're waiting for results. You can do it when you're having a bit of a spat with your partner. You can do it when the kids are late to school. You're late getting ready for school. You can do it anytime, anywhere. So perhaps just letting your gaze just rest. I don't know if you're holding a phone or on a computer or something, just resting your gaze somewhere. And all you need to do is just placing your attention down to your feet on the floor. Very, very simple. And just seeing if you can find some sense of contact between the soles of your feet and what they're resting on. So you might notice your shoes, you might notice a sense of firmness of the floor. You might notice sort of little contact places in your toes, your heels. And you might notice a sense of the weight of the body kind of moving down your legs and being held by these feet. So this is a sense of being grounded, rooted, and present. And something that's incredibly simple that you can come back to wherever you are, whatever you're doing, walking, sitting, standing, even the body on the bed. You can come back to body on the bed, sense of contact, weight going down. So I hope that for anyone who's currently diagnosed, having treatment, or perhaps they've gone past that, but they're still finding that cancer is taking up a lot of space in their minds, in their lives, and it does. Just to say that feet on the floor isn't going to solve anything, but it might just support some moments. I hope it will.
Thank you, Trish, for that practice, your insights, the work that you're doing, and especially the work around having this as accessible as you can for those who are going through this difficulty. For those who are watching, I'm going to have several links on the episode page for this, wherever you happen to be watching or listening to this episode. Our guest today, Trish Bartley. Trish, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here, everyone. And remember, every moment you have a choice. Make it the best you can. We'll see you next time.